It's Christmas Eve 2024 and I've put together another Spiderlift review video. Before I get into it, I want to give a special thanks to Mark Nelson with ACT Construction for giving me a weekend to play with CMC's 90 HD Plus Arborpro. Spiderlifts are a huge investment, so I've been putting a lot of time in comparing between two of the top brands in the industry, Toypin and CMC. I created this video to give my honest feedback about the CMC 90 after one weekend using it. I am not being paid by either company. This is an honest review. I should also mention that one weekend is not enough time to learn all the ins and outs of a Spiderlift, so I hope I don't give the CMC a bad look because of my own inexperience. But that being said, there are a lot of features I really like about the CMC, and I do my best to highlight those in this video. I plan to post at least one more review video after I have time with Toypin's new 89-foot model that they are releasing in January 2025. These units both have data sheets which advertise their working and technical specifications, so this video will not go into those specs, but will instead showcase a few features of the CMC as well as provide a few considerations that you won't get from those data sheets. I'm Nathan with Blue Oak, and I've got a CMC 90 HD Arborpro, the HD Plus, I suppose, the Arborpro, from ACT Construction that they're letting me demo over the weekend. And I just wanted to make a quick video talking about the things that we really like about this unit. And then I'll also mention some things that I don't like about this unit. And the end goal is going to be to compare it with the Toypin 89, which is their new model that they're releasing at the beginning of this year in January 2025. Really excited about that. But I want to give credit to where credit's due and talk about the good, cool things about the CMC 90. So one of the good things about them is they're in high demand. They are, selling like crazy. A lot of arborists trust this machine and trust this company. And I'll include a link in the description for who to contact if you're on the East Coast or if you're, the Southeast area, who to contact to try to purchase one of these machines. And another benefit about these machines is the financing that they have through one of their lenders is fantastic. I mean, it is the most fair financing that I've ever seen. And I'm not going to go into all the details of that right now, but those are two highlights for the CMC right off the bat. Okay, walking around the machine, just looking at it, it's pretty long. I think it's 22 feet long, but the basket can be removed, and it's a little bit shorter if you pull this basket off. So that's kind of cool. This whole basket can come off pretty easily. Let's keep walking around it. Oh, it's I want to say it's 9,000 pounds, maybe a little bit more. It's a little over 9,000 pounds, I believe. So that's pretty heavy. These outrigger pads, these things are so awesome. They are super heavy duty. And the Toypin 70 that we demoed, I didn't like the outrigger pads because they got a lot of junk in them very easily. CMC left these slots in between the outrigger pads and in the corners of the outrigger pads, so all the dirt just kind of falls out. I'm really anxious to see if the 89 upgraded their outrigger pads to kind of be a little bit more robust and have the debris get out more easily. These things can come off with a simple screw right here, which is not quite as ergonomic as Toypin's version, because there you see I just lost the screw. Not as ergonomic as Toypin's version. You have a little pinch thing that you can pinch it and pull it right out. So hopefully, I'm anxious to see, but hopefully Toypin upgraded theirs, incorporating their cool little pinch mechanism, but having a little bit beefier of an outrigger pad. That would be my hope. But all right, we're gonna keep going here. Another cool thing about the CMC is it's got this very easy to access battery cutoff. So there I've turned it on, and there I've disconnected.
I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on, and I'm gonna let the glow plugs warm up. Here's our glow plugs. We're gonna have to do this from the key side. The remote doesn't have a, whoa, Lord help. The remote does not have a glow plug option. So that's something that you need to understand. If you're going to warm it up in the wintertime, you have to do it from the key side. And you can't do any of the functionality from here. You have to walk back over and get the remote or whatever. In fact, I think you're supposed to turn it off and then turn it on with the remote so that you don't like freak the computer out. That's what Mark was telling me, but I'm not super experienced with this, so I can't say that for sure. But that's how we're gonna do it. We're gonna let it just warm up. There's my little yellow light. I'm gonna wait for that yellow light to go away, and then I can crank it. All right, I'm just gonna let it warm up, then I'll turn it off. Something is going on with that bell. Maybe it's this here. Yep. Okay. So that's what it was. There's a bypass switch, which is hidden under this cover. It's right there. See that switch, that bypass switch? What that is for going up a steeper grade. This thing can be driving up my property is terrible. It's like all slope. And you can see we're kind of on a steep grade for this unit. Sometimes it won't even drive, it'll just stop. If it hits too steep of a grade, it'll just stop. And that's when you can come under here and flip this switch, and it'll allow it to bypass the safety sensor. It senses that it's like on a steep grade and it doesn't want to work. But that'll bypass it so that you can go up what you need to go up. It just has an annoying little buzzer that you have to hear the whole time. Well, we'll see if it'll go from here. I might have to switch that back on. I'm gonna let it keep warming up. I'm gonna go over these outrigger pins. So these pins are very simple. You just do that, that's it. Now toy pin has a double locking function. So depending on the model of their Spiderlift, you have to do 2 separate motions to get this pin up. So like they have the collar where you have to pull the collar and then lift, and then their 98 model, there's some other mechanism that I can't remember. But that's how their 89 is going to be also, is the collar. The collar is going to be on their 89 where you pull the collar and lift. And Toy Pin considers that an important safety feature, so that nobody can accidentally just pull this up at all. Like it has to be very deliberate. But CMC doesn't have 2 separate motions, so it's just as simple as pulling up and then going into whichever slot you want to go into, and then it goes down. So I like that. I like how simple it is because it's quick, but I also understand where Toy Pin is coming from, that they want it to be a little safer and less potential for someone to accidentally lift that up if they aren't, meaning to. Okay, now the CMC allows you to lift the jib up while you're traveling, which is fantastic if you need clearance for the bucket. Okay, we don't know if the 89 is going to have that feature also, but we know that their 98 for the Toy Pin side of things, we know their 98 has that feature, something similar to it, I should say. It's a little different. But anyways, that's really cool with this CMC. That helps with loading. You don't have to run your bucket into the ground when you're loading it on the tilt trailer. What else? At a glance. See all this dirt? This dirt came out of this outrigger pad. Anyways, CMC has these metal boxes, which is really nice. The metal boxes, compared to what I've seen on the Toy Pin so far, are these plastic boxes. But this is where our remote is. Okay, and there's another battery that stays charging in there. So if this battery charger, the battery in the remote here starts to die, we have a spare that's always charging. We can just take this one off and put it into there, and the remote fits into that box nicely. Now coming over to the basket, CMC has this really nice quality metal control cover, which I think is great. And I'll try to get more of a look at that in a second here. Let's see if I can turn on the unit. I don't know if this is gonna work or not. Turn it on. It has a flip screen. Maybe it's gonna work. Again, I am not super knowledgeable on this unit yet. I know enough to get myself in trouble. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna see if I can just tilt the basket from here. Yep, there we go. And this will give us a little bit better of a look at the controls from the ground. Okay, now one thing I need to mention about the CMC, the controls, they are delayed. Here, before we look at that, let me say this thing about the controls. So watch how long it takes. I'm gonna put it back down, okay? I'm gonna flip that switch and go down. And it took a couple seconds for it to think about it. Now I'm gonna let it go, and look, it's still going. It went for a couple more seconds even after I let it go. So Mark told me that a lot of people who demo this unit, they end up running the telescope into the ground, like right in front of a group of people because they're not thinking about that delayed response. So that's something to think about with the CMC, all right? Anyway, here's a nice look at the basket controls. And yes, you are able to dump the basket if you want to, which is really cool, because if you need to get to an injured worker, or even if you just want to clean it out, you can dump it and let all the sawdust come out, let the water come out. You're not supposed to drill holes in these. That'll violate the conductivity. Plus they're fiberglass. I don't think that would be good for their structure anyway. So don't drill any holes to drain water. But these controls are operated by a joystick, and it does have two motions. You have to pull up on this little collar, and then you can move it around, okay? Right now, because the remote is on, these controls will not work. But this is, you know, it's pretty simple. The jib, you have to push this green button here, and then this joystick will operate your jib controls, and this joystick will do nothing. So with your jib controls on, you can't rotate, you can't telescope, you can't do anything. So you have to go in between pushing this button to move the jib around, which I don't really like that, but that's how CMC decided to do it. Other than that, the controls are very simple. And we can demonstrate that in a little bit here. All right, so I'm gonna lift this back up. I'm actually going to lift the jib up by, okay. So here's lifting the jib up. And this, here, come on over here where you can get a side view of this. This is lifting up the jib. This is so that you can get better clearance while traveling. Here, I think I could just empty the entire bucket. Let's try it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. You can just blow out all that sawdust. I'm gonna dump it a little bit more. And that's as far as it'll dump. So not quite going totally inverted, but enough to make cleaning it out easier without having to pull the basket totally off, and enough to get an injured coworker out of the basket if you have to. I'm gonna switch down to the turtle. This thing, here's your turtle, then your in between, and then your rabbit. We're gonna switch down to turtle when we're driving it. Boy, this thing is jumpy as all get out. Another thing you need to think about is the arrows. Come over here. Okay, so CMC makes this really easy by putting these red and green arrows on the tracks. If you've got the green arrows, then it's like this is forward. That's green arrows, and you can see a tiny little green arrow right there. You can also see a tiny little red arrow right there, which means that if I go backwards, that's red. If I go forwards, that's green. So really, if I want to drive the unit this way, I'm going to take this remote and I'm going to turn it upside down to make it a little more intuitive for me. Otherwise, it's going to be backwards. Okay? Okay, so it's coming over this hill, no problem. So I'm going to actually turn it up 1 for throttle. All right, look at how fast that's going now. And I'm going to slowly turn it, and you can see it's a little bit jumpy. Now this is just the middle setting of speed. It goes 1 speed higher, but it's very jumpy. And you definitely don't want to do that if you have close obstacles, because you might turn the thing into one of those obstacles. So, all right, just like the toy fin, you have the option of setting your outriggers in narrow configuration. So you can set up in areas that are a lot more restricted, but your working envelope will be tightened up, okay? Just keep that in mind. So if you want your full range, you need to go to the number 2 position for the CMC. See those numbers right here? That's the 1 position for the narrow setup. That's the 2 position for the normal setup. These are big and they're very heavy duty, but they're very easy to swing, as long as you're not on too bad of an incline. Be careful, come in here really quick. Be careful putting your fingers right here, because there's a serious pinch hazard between this pin and finding that little hole right there. Very serious pinch hazard there. So just kind of keep your hand up here, I would say, and then push it down. So to do the outriggers, we have only 2 options. It's a switch, either up or down. We're gonna go ahead and put them down. But I don't like that. I like the ability to select which outriggers I want to do. Like, in other words, I want the option to do them manually. If I need to adjust one of those outriggers instead of all of them, I'd rather have the ability to manually select 1 of the 4 or 2 of the 4 or what have you. Now, it doesn't matter as long as the auto level feature works perfectly every time, but sometimes the auto feature does not work, the auto leveling feature. But we're on relatively decently flat ground here, so it worked. But if it doesn't work, then you'll have to kind of go back and forth between raising the outriggers and lowering the outriggers and raising the outriggers and lowering the outriggers and trying to like help the computer find that spot of level. If you have a manual feature to do them independently, then you can figure it out a lot faster than the computer can in certain situations, okay? So anyway, I've been in a situation already with the CMC where it was having a really hard time finding level. And since auto level is all it has, and those are my 2 choices, either raise or lower all the outriggers, it took me quite a while to find level. Okay? The toy bin, I'm told, has the option to do manual outriggers, but haven't seen that in person yet. So we know their 70 model did, but we don't know if their 89 will or not. Anyways, one cool thing about this is every time it stops, it says it's level. But you can keep going down and it'll keep raising the machine. Okay? I'm gonna keep going down again. Every time it stops, it's level. Okay? We're just gonna keep on going. You can raise this thing pretty high. But you have to keep, you have to wait for it to stop. You gotta push it down again. You can see, this could take a little while. But the reason you might want to do this is to back a flatbed truck under it, or to back a trailer under it, if your trailer didn't have a ramp. It also gives you an extra like 4 feet of height. If you want to get the full amount of height, then you have to go all the way up with your outriggers. And the 90 HD is talking about working height. So that doesn't mean the platform goes to 90. It just means that with the outriggers all the way up, like with the machine like elevated all this way, then you can you have a working height of 90 feet. Okay. All right. Now we're going to lower this jib again so that I can reach the basket, because I can't like reach the basket with it this high up. But it's having a hard time. Something's not right. There's a little diagnostic screen in here with the remote, and it tells me that everything here is green. It says everything's green. I should be able. Very odd. It's still not working. Bear with me. Oh, there it is. Wait. Remember how I said the controls are super delayed? Well, that's part of the confusion, I guess. You could be holding it for a few seconds and not see anything happen, and it's the computer is like still processing what to do. I don't really like that. There's a lot going on here. There's a Bluetooth signal going to a computer, then telling the hydraulic pump what to do. I suppose that all the newer machines are going to be like that. And this, to be fair, it does have a plug-in option. Apparently, I've been told. That's still pretty hard to reach, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lift the upper boom. Now, the CMC, as well as the toy pin that we demoed, requires you to lift your upper boom pretty high up before you can start to lift your lower boom. So we're going to lift it up to there. Now let's see if it'll let us. It's still, you see, it still won't let me lift the upper boom. Oh, nope, there it goes. There it goes. So again, that delay, that throws me off a lot. But I had to lift my upper boom pretty good before it would let me even raise the lower boom. And the reason for that is they don't want people to accidentally run the basket into the ground. Okay? But in my case, what I want to do is I want to get the basket closer to me. So I'm going to have to lift the upper even further and then get my lower in the total vertical position. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to get that lower boom in the vertical upright position. All right, I'm almost there, I think. There. Now, once that telescope starts to come out of the lower boom, you know that you're in the top vertical position. So now let's go down with our upper boom. Okay, now it's working. So, okay, you have to lift the lower boom all the way straight up into the air, max it out at its highest position before you can lower your lower boom. I'll tell you what, another thing might be is it might be my jib is curled in too much. So let's lift that jib out. Come on, baby. You can do it. There we go. So I hit that control and it's taking a minute to figure it out. And then I released it and I hit it again and now it's working. Okay, I'm not sponsored by Toypin and I'm not sponsored by CMC. I'm just giving honest feedback. I mean, this is a quality machine, there's no doubt about that, but the computer, you know. All right, so anyways, here we go. Now we're gonna try to lower our upper boom. I'm just trying to get the telescope to go. There we go. Now part of this could be the fact that I don't have enough experience to know all the ins and outs of this machine, so I'm not giving a totally fair representation, I'm sure. But if you end up getting one of these things, just understand there's going to be some little gimmick stuff to have to figure out. So don't expect your first couple jobs to be the most efficient. All right, from here we can lift out our telescope, and remember we're going to stop before. Now look, I took my hand off of it and you saw how it kept going. I'm going to do that again a little closer, and again I'm going to stop, and it travels for a couple seconds longer than when you just let go of it. I can get it a little closer to the ground. There we go. All right. Now we're going to turn the remote off, and it'll turn the machine off as well. And what you have to do, you have to come over here. You have to turn it off there. Then you can turn it back on, and from here we can turn it on at the basket. I gotta put this remote back in the box, so there's one design flaw there. It would be nice if there was a box on the key side so that I could just put the remote straight into the box from the key. But as it is, I have to walk around. So for our tie-ins, we have these two little shackles here. All right. And I used one of them for a chainsaw lanyard. I used this machine to remove a very large silver maple that was like, that's the stump of it right there. And it was like all over, hanging over our structures. So I got a little bit of experience doing an actual tree removal, a very big one with the CMC 90, but we definitely aren't gonna have as much experience as I had with Toypin's 70 model, because we're just not gonna have the same amount of time with it. But it's enough for us to help us make a decision, and we're making that decision to wait and see Toypin's 89 when it comes out, so we have more of a comparison, a fair comparison, because comparing Toypin 70 against CMC's cream of the crop 90 just is not fair at all. So anyways, we're gonna start this thing up, and takes a minute. There we go. Sometimes you have to press it twice for some reason. I don't know why. From here, we're gonna telescope in. Now, I personally think that the CMC is a little bit slow, both in responsiveness as well as like just the movement of the hydraulics. So we're going up right now. Okay, one thing I really like about the CMC is look how much standoff I have from the unit, because it's a front-loaded boom. Okay, so the turret is like all the way on the front of the machine. So all you gotta do is face the basket towards the work, and you are automatically, you have as much standoff as you can get from your outriggers. This is great when we're like cutting to pieces and stuff and we don't want to hit the machine. All right? It's a great design for the type of work that we do. All right, so anyway, we're gonna go on up. Let's see if I can get all the way up in that tulip tree above me.
Who's up there?
So here you can see the speed of me retracting the telescope back down, and I will say that the height was very impressive. I was at the very tips of that very large tulip tree. When I went down, it does wobble a little bit, and the sensor will beep at you. The basket controls will actually sound an alarm when you put your upper boom down far enough. It won't let you go any further. That is a safety feature with these lifts. The CMC has an audible alarm that you can hear, and it won't let you go any further until you retract your telescope in. Then you can go down further. I've also found that like working the jib, if you have the jib curled in, and then you go out as far as you can with the telescope until you hear the alarm bell, then you can extend the jib out horizontal and get a little bit of extra reach to get past that sensor. But that is as far as it'll go. It has a nice safety feature to keep people from tipping these things over. Now here I'm going to demonstrate the negative feature for the CMC, the ability to go below grade, and you'll see that I'm trying to lift up, but I can't because the telescope is too far extended. Again, it does not want me to do that so that it will not tip the machine over.
This is the negative. Like below the machine. It won't let me go any further out.
Here I'm using the home button to let the CMC pack itself up so you can kind of see how fast it goes.
Well, something I need to mention about the home button with the CMC is it only works if the basket is centered perfectly. And I don't understand the clear way to tell when the basket is centered. It's hard to tell if the basket is off center. And if it's off center, then the home button will not work. So that's kind of a downside. But if your basket is centered, then your home button will work, and it'll handle the rest of the controls for you. All right, we're gonna lower that. Then we're just gonna raise our outriggers from here. Get a little closer to the ground. I'm gonna try to lower down even further. By curling that jib in. That's about, about it. From here, same thing. You can lift up your outriggers. You can lift up your outriggers and you can drive to the next job spot. All you gotta do is lift them up a little bit, and then the controls automatically become tracks. Now watch what happens when I'm in the rabbit mode. See how much that bucks me around? So pretty violent, but you can just drive in turtle mode. It's not as bad. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna take this over to that cherry and untie a rope. Still can get a rope that I left up there, and I'll go over some more features about what I like in the morning. This lift is very impressive with like the grade that it can climb. It went up that dump trailer. Well, not a dump trailer. It went up that tilt trailer the way it is right now, and the tilt trailer is backed onto a hill. So the incline of that tilt is like, it's like hard to walk up this. Like this is a full-on dirt bike ramp type grade right here. This is great. Now, obviously, it's not going to do it while the trailer's wet. So, we would use like a rubber mat or something. But while the trailer was dry the other day, that machine managed to go straight up it. I was amazed. I had to flip the bypass switch to cancel the safety feature, which freezes the machine when it's on too steep of a grade. So I had to flip that switch to do it, but it did it. It was quite impressive. Another thing that it can do is you can see these track marks. I drove it down this hill. Okay. Drove it down this hill, and you can see like the weight of that machine in this nice grass still churned up this grass a little bit right here, especially where it started to make the turn. It definitely chews up the grass. Keep that in mind. All right, this is a heavy machine. It's like over 9,000 pounds. Now the tracks, they can suck in independently of each other. So when you're going across a slope like this, I sucked the uphill track in and left the downhill track out, and the machine traveled like that across the slope. It makes it a lot more stable. So now the Toypin model can do that as well, but I just think that that's worth highlighting. The CMC model is very impressive on these slopes and on steep inclines. I mean, very impressive. All right, I'm gonna show another thing I really like about it. That is how easy it is to get to the air filter. Look at the air filter right here. Right there. And so when we're doing our maintenance, we're gonna clean out the air filter. It's super easy to access. There's the diesel fuel filter. So it's got a valve, so you can cut the fuel line off and swap out the filter. Oh, the oil stick is right here. So anyways, the maintenance side of this is very, very easy. Very easy maintenance. We like to do that. We like to check our equipment out on a routine basis. I like that I don't even have to pull covers off to get to the air filter, to look at the fuel water separator, the diesel, to look at the coolant levels, and to read the oil. It's all right there without having to pull the cover off. Then there's only 4 grease points on this machine, and they are right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they have these nice little caps on them. These little caps. And they're all right next to each other. So when you're greasing the turret, you don't have to walk around the machine or anything. You just grease it all from one side and it's done. Okay, I am gonna drive this thing up and out. We're gonna stop and fill it up with diesel and get it ready for the guys to pick it up. Those are my thoughts. That's the CMC 90 at a glance. I hope that this has been helpful. Again, if you want to buy one of these, contact Mark Nelson from ACT.